Sure. Okay. Yeah. Good. Another episode. I just want to go and mention that we were the first to come up with this, and not Naval on his recent podcast where he walked and kind of claimed it was the latest and greatest, newest, coolest thing. But it was actually us inventing this, right?
Yep. And we did it in the snow at risk to health and hypothermia.
I mean, yeah.
I actually fell down once while we were talking. I don't know if people could hear it in the audio.
Oh no, AI is so good, it will cut that out.
Okay.
But you're falling down. Yeah.
So we definitely did it first.
Yeah. So what's new? I feel like we created this chat group and kept pinning down stuff, but that's all kind of outdated by now.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we could just talk about in general where everything's going or how we feel like things are going.
Yeah. So you saw... Oh, do you want to start?
No, I just wanted to say, sorry, it's been so long since the last episode. I'm now in Singapore, and it was a bit hard to find a good time with the kids not being in kindergarten, and the time zone differences with Flo suddenly went from 12 hours to just 5. But yeah. Here we are.
Yeah, it's good. It always takes some time to adjust, I guess, to new environments. So you'll be in my time zone for a while now, for the next 4 months at least. We're in this time zone, 5 hours.
Yeah, if you can say 5 hours is your time zone. I guess when you're in New Zealand, anyone within 6 hours is your time zone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's kind of like, I can talk to them when it's not dark, when they're not in the middle of the night. Yeah.
So next 3 months I'll be here.
Yeah, so good. Did you see the latest message from Jack Dorsey to his employees?
No.
Where he like, I've been following along on Twitter, sort of the debate. One camp is kind of like AI is gonna get us all unemployed. All the white collar jobs will be revolutionized. Nobody's gonna have a job anymore. That's sort of the one camp. And the other side says we're going to have great efficiency booms. Everything's going to go up because of that. And software isn't dead, all of that. So I think like there's these two different camps. And I think in anticipating some sort of shock through white collar layoffs from companies, I think like generally NASDAQ and tech stocks haven't been trading that well, right? And announced best ever earnings, I think like beating earnings per share by like 70% or so. Or year over year was 70% up. Yeah, market kind of didn't go up much and even went down on the next day. And so Jack Dorsey just sent the message. The company Block that he has, I don't actually know exactly what they do, but they've got 10,000 employees and he's getting rid of 4,000. So he's decreasing his workforce by 40%. Essentially, and says that huge. Through the level of automation, et cetera, et cetera. And like then again on Twitter, some people are like, yeah, that's good. At the same time, there's things like the job postings from software companies looking for, or generally companies looking for software engineers have gone up in recent months, right? So that would be like contra the argument that we're all going to be unemployed, or like lots of companies seem to still be looking for software engineers. Just because it's gotten like it's such an amazing business case at the moment to hire a software engineer, right? Because he generally like you pay a similar salary, but he has 10x'd his output as compared to 4 years ago, right? So you're getting a lot more for that. So I guess like that's good, but we'll see what happens, right? Like now you have other companies, and okay, so maybe for context, what also happened is Block made redundant or announced making redundant 4,000 people, and the stock went up like 10% or so. So the stock went up, market liked it. So what that signals to the market generally that a lot of these potentially bloated companies, and a lot of companies might be bloated through AI efficiency gains, will or might be doing these sort of layoffs. And then the question is if the demand for software engineers can sort of keep up with the newly available supply of software engineers, right? So I just thought that was interesting. I'm kind of thinking the whole thing through. I don't have a conclusion yet, but yeah, it's a fascinating back and forth happening right now, I think, on Twitter and generally in the world with AI getting better.
I agree. I think it's definitely fascinating. I view it through the lens of, like, you can say it's a productivity gain, right? And then when you think about what was the previous analog of a productivity gain. Maybe if you go back far enough, maybe it's the Industrial Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people could get off the farms, could get out of factories. And then the question is, what happened then? Like, did the spoils of these revolutions get shared with the common person or not?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was good. Productivity went up, but to what end? Like, who gained from that productivity and who lost? And then, because then you fast forward then to China, entering the scene in, I don't know, the year 2000 or something, right? And then you see what they did. So you could say these American companies, European companies that shifted their production to China, that there was a productivity gain. And I'm sure their stocks, all these American corporates went up in the last 20 years, the 25 years, right? But the cost was probably, the brunt of it was borne by the workers of these American factories, right? They went from having better paid jobs to working at Walmart as an usher, right? And then the whole economy got financialized. Yeah. So I feel like with AI, this revolution will just go a lot quicker. And I'm not I might be optimistic maybe about profits, but I'm not optimistic about stability, like social stability, right?
Yeah. I think, I agree on social stability, specifically in the short term. I think long term, things might or will probably shake out okay because we'll generate a lot of new jobs, and with all that efficiency, things might get cheaper. Who knows, right? Like everything outside of commodity, but even maybe commodity production will get cheaper because we just have all that knowledge now at our fingertips, right? And I don't have a good analogy to the farming thing, but something could be that, in the, let's say in the farming area or in that industrial revolution, like you could give everyone a tractor now. And now with this AI boom, you can give everyone a tractor and everyone has land. So what essentially speaks is like an optimistic case is that everyone could go and now start a business pretty easily, right? Because you don't need a lot of capital to build software and make something more efficient. So I think there's also a ton of opportunity to, build stuff in this, now efficiency race.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I was talking to my wife about it a few days ago, and I was saying that maybe it's something like the smartphone, right? Where we're using the same phone as Jeff Bezos or Zuckerberg, but some people use it to scroll cat videos, other people use it to manage billion-dollar enterprises, right? And maybe AI will be somewhat similar because just because it's available for everyone doesn't mean everyone will use it in the right way. And so I think just like throughout history, right, technology always distributes. Human behaviors are not evenly distributed, right? Human endeavor is not evenly distributed, and then you've got the power structures behind that as well. So I don't know. I hope so. I look at China and I see in many ways China's sort of leading this whole revolution where they've brought the cost of everything down, right? And they've introduced technology at scale everywhere, including farming, including, in areas where you would not think about technology as your first thing to go to when you think, oh, we've got drones, how do we use it, right? Or we've got AI, how do we use it? But China's just pushing the envelope everywhere. And so then when you go to China and you see how that society is sharing the wealth, in some cases you could be optimistic because basically everyone there has security, right? Food security and relatively good healthcare. And you hardly see anyone homeless, everyone's got shelter. And you do feel like there's some chance for social mobility, upward mobility, right? If you study hard in a rural area, you still can get a good job somewhere in a city, right, that you like. But everyone's still working really hard, like, a 60-hour week where you don't get to see your kids is still relatively normal. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the West does it when we have access to these things, right?
To that level of automation.
Yeah. And then secondly, China's got all the supply chains for the raw materials that the West might not have, and we cannot just assume that it's going to happen overnight. So you might have the best AI systems, but when the the digital meets the analog, right? The real world, when you need molecules, how is the West going to procure those molecules?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess, like it can still be a global market. And I think I said this last time, right? There's always a buyer and a seller, and there's always that coincidence of wants. Someone wants to sell this and someone wants to buy this. So as long as we're all sort of at peace with each other, then I can see that going really well. That some people own the supply chain for certain things and others do parts, enrich that, enhance that in other areas, right?
Yeah, I agree. I hope nobody weaponizes these things, but call me maybe slightly cynical because I'll believe it when I see it. I just see everybody weaponizing so many things now that, like, why would America weaponize the dollar system? They were doing so well on it. Why would they weaponize it?
Yeah.
Something there, right? Like, they were on top of the heap. They had global control. Everyone was just happy to keep working as long as you allowed them to spend money that they saved in whatever they wanted. But America wanted to say, no, you've earned all these dollars in our dollar system, but you're not allowed to buy this and that. If not, we'll sanction you.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering in the future what will happen. Hopefully it's decentralized enough that nobody would come out and be this rogue actor to say, I'm going to start weaponizing stuff, because they don't have enough network effects to actually believe it could work.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Maybe another interesting thing that I read in this area was I'm not sure if it was the Washington Post or New York Times or whatever, some article, and it was sort of written towards China, having with so China's policy all along has kind of been this peaceful, we're going to invest in countries, trade with them, and then we're going to benefit from that. Right, so they're going out building ports in Panama, building mining capacity railways just to help these countries, right? And that's been going well, I think, for China and for these countries. But I think the article argued that what ultimately matters at the end is military power. And the Americans showed that with Venezuela, and I'm not sure what they're doing with Iran. They also did something in Panama, right? And at the end sort of seized, I think, like some Chinese company, or took the rights away for them to keep running that. There was some incident there, right? And the article basically argued that the Chinese were doing all that, but it's kind of like pointless, because what matters at the end is military power. Did you see that? Did you read that?
Yeah, I read it. So the Chinese company is actually a Hong Kong company.
Yeah.
And yeah, they got the Supreme Court to rule that letting China develop and use this port in that way was unconstitutional.
The Panamanian government.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess like under influence of the under influence of the Americans, I assume.
Yeah, I also assume.
Because otherwise, like it probably benefited Panama hugely for China to having done this, right? So that's the move that you don't do just out of a whim. You don't piss China off that way.
Yeah.
Or Hong Kong.
There's this thing called Engel's paradox, Angell, and it basically says that the committing the sanction, the person committing the weaponization of a system ultimately loses, right? Because by doing so, you reduce the trust in that system, and then people start pulling away. So, when the Chinese decided to invest in this port in Panama with excess dollars that they created or they earned from the surplus they got, right? What this tells the Chinese is that I don't know who wrote that paper saying, ultimately you need a military, because I don't think that's how the Chinese will ever think. Because for them, building a military also costs something. So it's like you're chasing a sunken cost.
Yeah, they were more portraying this as like, the Americans being the ultimate winner here because they have that military might and use it.
Yeah, you could say that, but then you could also say, but what happens when the Chinese know now that America's not a trusted trading partner, and they start to pull away from the American hemisphere, right? They start pulling away from Central America now. Because they go, yeah, why would we invest? Because if we do that, you're just going to take it away from us. And then they could also put in sanctions against these guys and say, okay, we're not going to export anything to Panama anymore. And then Panama's in deep trouble. Or they could do what they're doing with the rare earths for the US, right? And then, it's so asymmetrical. They could go, hey, okay, no more batteries and magnets for you guys until you pay us the total amount of money invested in the port. That will be, our number one condition for starting to allow you to use our supply chains again. So it starts like a domino effect, right? Like once you pull away from the rules that everyone's agreed to, you enter this arena where there are no rules. And it gets everybody to... And the only way America could influence them that way is, one, they said they're going to invade Panama if they don't do that. Or two, they could bribe them with dollars that they could print out of thin air. And for both of those situations, it behooves the rest of the world to take away that privilege that America has to print dollars out of nothing.
Yeah.
Because it's the printing of those dollars that gives America that military, or the ability to bribe whoever they want to bribe anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Right? So in the short term, it's a win for the US, right? But in the long term, everybody's got eyes wide open right now, right?
I guess like everybody saw that.
International law, right? Yeah. Same with Maduro and Venezuela.
Yeah. But what is that going to change on the Chinese side? Are they going to stop investing in certain countries? In Iran, I think like they're still investing there. What are they going to do? Or are they going to apply counter pressure in these ways that you highlighted?
I think both, I'm sure they'll keep investing. They have to keep investing. But for them, it's like, you're an investor as well, right? Like for the Chinese, it's like, hey, I'm spreading I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket, right? I'm spreading my investments out. And if I lose some, it's okay. I just will never invest in that stock again. And when you look at how China is at the moment such a powerful player, not in terms of military, but in terms of supply chains and production, you need to be careful, because if you put yourself on the blacklist with the Chinese, what does that mean for you, like with access to 5G, 6G networks, EV cars, renewable batteries, solar panels, right? Drones. What does that mean when you go and offend like the world's, many would argue, one of the most highest, most industrialized, most technologically advanced nations.
Yeah. Don't know. I mean, we'll see what they're really going to do. So far, I haven't heard much. I haven't been following it from that side, but it's still an interesting sort of thought.
I think there's another layer to that story, because the guy that Hong Kong billionaire tycoon that owns these things, he's maybe not like the biggest mainland China fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's also got ways to get, his conglomerate has ways to get paid back, let's say, right? So he might not be putting in as much resistance as the Chinese government would like to whatever's happening.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, the thing for me as an individual investor, I'm not planning any military operations, right? The only thing I have to do is think about where to save my money, where should my family live, that's it, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that this tells me is just that it's another nail in the coffin of this system that we all used to live by.
Yeah, for sure. It's like another step that erodes that sort of trust on a global scale, right? Everybody's going to think twice now before investing in something that is maybe under the influence of the Americans. And that will be bad for the countries that, I guess, like ally with them, right? Or I guess like officially portray themselves on the sides. So it's probably for any country, it's better to have a very neutral stance now, because that will attract more investment from outside, from China or potentially other countries.
Yeah, I think that's one thing, and I think for me the most instantaneous effect of it will be loss. The loss in trust will manifest as higher costs of capital, higher costs to get credit. Because in a way, credit is based on trust, right? And when people are getting more worried about getting their return on capital or return of capital, if people can just start taking things willy-nilly, you become more careful with whether or not you lend money out. And that just means you need higher interest rates to entice people to lend out their money, right? And that means, lending money outside of your home country to another nation, okay, plus 5%, right? Because who knows if we can get that money back if, at any point in time, they can just say, sorry, rules have changed.
Yeah, it's too risky.
Yeah, and so when that happens, what does that mean, right? I think it's probably not super good for some of the current business models that run heavily on cheap credit and globalized systems.
Yeah.
Probably also means less people investing financially in the West. So if you've got lowering of that capital flow to the West, you get maybe slightly weaker currencies in the West relative to the emerging markets. Basically, all this just tells me there's a rebalancing that needs to take place, and people will look at emerging markets maybe with more interest.
I mean, but yeah, I agree. But Panama is an emerging market, right? So maybe it isn't. But I think it's there, right?
Maybe emerging markets outside of the Western Hemisphere's influence, like
Iran.
Iran. I don't think the investments into Iran is going to slow. I think the Chinese will keep investing in Iran because they need that. They need that oil, right? And you see that China and Russia have been like airlifting non-stop, right? Items into Iran. So there's investments that are monetary in nature, but sending over radar systems and anti-air defenses and all that, that's also a form of investment.
Yeah.
And that's increasing the ability for a nation to be sovereign in a way, or at least not getting bullied by a certain party. It just means, you're fighting for influence. The point is, right, Flo, there's always going to be a surplus in certain nations, right? The question is, where does that go to? And if people say we don't want to invest in Panama, but we also can't invest in Iran, and we also don't want to invest in America because we might be persona non grata one day and then lose all our investments, that doesn't mean that the surplus goes away. So then maybe neutral reserve assets like Bitcoin and gold start to go up even more, right? Or silver, or real estate. Real estate stops going up in New York and Vancouver and Sydney, but starts going up more in Jakarta or something. I don't know, right? But that money has to go somewhere. That capital has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And for me, it just means I think the West is going to lose out on that marginal flow that was just always bidding, right? Those passive flows. It was just always bidding US assets.
Who would be the biggest bidders onto that at the moment, right? It'd be like a lot of Chinese investment of their trade surplus. They would go and buy American assets. So they would buy other stuff now because they can just, there's less trust in the system.
Yeah. I think they started to change their flows once America, like Trump in 2018 started saying, we're not going to give you access to chips. We're going to sanction ZTE, right?
Yeah.
We're going to sanction Huawei. I think once that happened, it was like somebody was ringing a bell, right? People started to go, okay, I better be careful.
Yeah, we're going to stop putting money into this.
But the Japanese and the Koreans and the Germans, they haven't really stopped, and I think they're starting to think about it now, right, with whatever's been happening geopolitically.
Yeah. I guess with these, the problem is they're likely not independent enough to do bold moves like the Chinese maybe have. Right? There's these countries, they don't seem to be resilient enough to be able to do these moves.
Yeah, but again, right, depending on the lens that we put onto things, right, how much time are we looking at? So you can tell these people you're not allowed to invest your capital rationally, but that just means in the long run you get a centralized economy, right? People have to waste capital investing in wrong things, and then that capital's gone. And once that capital's gone, you basically can't keep up with the rest of the world that are investing their capital rationally. So then, at the end of the day, you still have this scorched earth, right? So if centralized economies work, the DDR would be thriving still.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of time, you can corral people today to tell them you're not allowed to do this or that. But in the long run, the long arm of unintended consequences always comes to give you a slap in the face.
Yeah, that's true. We'll have to monitor the situation, see what's going to happen.
It's crazy, right? Me personally now, when I read about geopolitics and I read about investing and I read about, events, and I think about investing, and about where our family should live, I'm only almost binarily thinking about whether a country is sovereign or not. Right? Like, to me, if a country is not sovereign, in this day and age where, geopolitics is coming to the fore, if a country's not sovereign, you're on the menu.
But I guess that's a spectrum, right? Because how are you in this day and age really sovereign?
It is a spectrum. But when somebody has foreign troops on your land, I feel like that's one end of the spectrum, and I want to stay away from that end. When some country is forced to use energy supplies that are not good for them, that's one end of the spectrum. Yeah, so I feel like I would be hesitant to go and say, hey, I want to be in Korea for the next 80 years, 100 years.
Yeah.
Same with Germany or Japan, right? Until they manage to find a way to not have their ultimate veto power taken away from them, I don't know if there are good outcomes. It can be good for a while, and then suddenly something changes. Right? You see how fast Germany went from being an export powerhouse to now, struggling to compete with Hungary, and that happened within a 5-year period.
Yeah, but then I guess like the list of those kind of countries is not super long. So, I like Taiwan, but is Taiwan sovereign? Probably very difficult country at the moment. New Zealand, has maybe not as strong ties to the Americans as the Australians have, but Australia definitely has super strong ties there. They're from other perspectives certainly great countries because they're far away from everything, and Australia at least is fairly independent in a lot of areas, but still there's not that many countries really.
I mean, I think you could say if you look at Thailand, you look at Vietnam, at the end of the day, you have a feeling that these guys have more say in the future of their countries than Japan does at the moment, right?
Yeah.
And you are right in saying that, but living in Japan is probably nicer if I want good healthcare or I want safety on the streets, right? But that differential is going down so fast, I just visited Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi, right, in the last few years, and it's a very nice place. Chiang Mai in Thailand is a very nice place.
Yeah, true.
I think, you can say that there are countries that are definitely not sovereign, right? And try and stay away from those, and then be more open to wherever else you stay besides that.
Yeah. I guess, I would probably phrase it or put it slightly different, that strategy. I would likely diversify here and be flexible enough to move, right? So diversifying your passports, have, if you can, it's not easy, but have 2 citizenships. And then
I agree. That one I agree with completely. There's another layer, right? That gives you you don't have to be right. You get one more chance if you're wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can benefit from, I think Ho Chi Minh is pretty nice, but not quite there yet. I don't like that they don't have great international schools or healthcare. I'm not saying that they don't, but you can just kind of wait and sit it out and wait sometime somewhere, because you might be flexible enough to move between countries.
Yep.
And I think that is another great way to play this. Right. So then, you're living in Germany, and but the thing is, you've got multiple passports and you got the ability to leave if you wanted to, because you can you're not too tied to Germany. You don't have a German business that you need to run.
Yep.
And therefore, can make that move if you wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's super important. And that also means you need some soft skills, right? You need to be able to speak international language so that you can live somewhere else. You need to be flexible enough mentally to go, I'll be happy. It won't be painless, but I would be okay to up and go if I need to, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's, getting another passport's the administrative part of that. Going through the emotional turmoil of thinking about leaving home, that's another part of that.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Easier for some, let's say.
Yeah. I mean, it gets harder. I think the older you get, or the more with kids especially as well,
Yeah,
makes it harder.
yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Can be done, but it's not easy for some. Yeah,
And another thing is your investments. How's your money being saved, and
yeah,
under which jurisdiction is it, and stuff like that. And you mentioned earlier that Australia's pretty independent and it's so far away, and I agree with that. But again, your lack of sovereignty comes in ways that can surprise you. So my dad's Australian, right? And he nearly had to go and serve in Vietnam. He was
yeah,
just lucky, right? So if you
yeah,
look at the Korean War, the Vietnamese War, even in Iraq, right? Australian casualties were always one of the highest after the US. And these conquests have nothing to do with Australia's national interest. Why would it be good for Australia to send troops to Vietnam? They're actually their neighbors. And so that also makes you think, like, if you've got kids and you're in a country that's not, let's say, able to make its own decisions, you might have to pay the ultimate price one day. And you just don't know, right?
yeah. That's
So,
true. Yeah,
and then maybe not with serving in the military, but maybe it means, hey, all Australian superannuations now have to be put into US assets, because anything that's not US asset could one day be controlled by China, and we don't want that. So you have
yeah,
to invest in the US.
yeah,
I wouldn't be too surprised if the Australian government made a silly decision like that, right? I mean, look at Australian super investments, and they're all in the big four Australian banks.
hmm
That
yeah,
can't be a good decision, right? Like, Commonwealth Bank has a higher market cap than JP Morgan or something like that, or Goldman Sachs.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's true. But again, like I guess like the remedy to that would be flexible enough to leave, and
100%.
that's
That's
ultimately
that's
what.
what I agree with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you in that
Because if shit hits the
sense in
fan and
any
you're not
term.
a Vietnamese but you're living in Vietnam, that's also not great.
Exactly. So ultimate flexibility, don't tie I don't like to tie, like, I love Singapore, right?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite countries. I'm so happy that I was lucky enough to be born here. I love the philosophy of the place. But I'm one of the first ones to say I don't have to live there. I haven't been living there for decades now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to me, that flexibility in how you live and seeing yourself as a member of this global society, I feel more comfortable with that, right? I can tell people where I'm from, I can tell them where I'm a citizen of, but at the same time, I'd love to be part of the action globally, right? Play a role somehow in a global context, not just, oh, I was born here, so I'm only going to put my energy and attention to 50-kilometer radius from where I was born.
Yeah. And I think that's super cool and powerful if you're able to shift your mind. And I think that's the biggest thing, to be able to do that. Because if you really want to do it, you can do it and go somewhere else and leave if you needed to or want to, and just find something that's more suitable. But then you need to have the mindset to be able to leave again if you think there's something even better or something worth trying, something else worth trying. I think that's something that people just need to hone.
I mean, Flo, at the end, right? We're both options traders, right? And when you trade options, the thing you're looking for is optionality, and you want to put in as you want to get as much optionality for as low a cost as possible, right? And I think how you decide to live your life is also, you can architect it, you can design it to give you better optionality or lower optionality.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, just think about yourself. Imagine if you grew up and you didn't take speaking English seriously, and your English level was probably average for what the because right now your English is native level, But if you were to have the average German proficiency in English, I think your life would have been very different. And that's just one very easy, like, low hanging aspect to point out, right? Not to mention all your other traits where you're open minded and you're able to take calculated risks and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I think it's daunting for me, right? You speak Chinese, I don't. And to me, that's a huge barrier of moving to China and trying it out. Right? I'd love to experience it, love to try it out, but and I know you keep telling me it's easy to learn, but I know that it's going to be really freaking hard to do this on a level where when we moved to Singapore for the first time, it was easy. I just arrived and I went to the office and I was able to work. It was English. I didn't have to take any courses. There was no slowdown for me at all. I was able to go from 100% speed and I could just touch the ground and go 100% speed again. And I think if we moved to China, that would not be the case. And then I'm thinking about the kids and schools, and yeah, it's just, you're right, right? Like having the language, that's a huge advantage.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for the kids it would be easier. I think for you and Vicky, it'd be okay to learn basic Chinese, right? To be able to, and I think with the way the economies go, the place is developing, with all the apps and everything, you do okay, but it's not the same for sure, right? Like you could meet an average person in New Zealand now and then strike up a conversation and have a good time, right? But it would be much harder in China to get to that level where you can speak Chinese well enough to hold a decent conversation. That's not easy.
Yeah.
It'll take some time. It's not impossible, but it's not easy, right?
Yeah. 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 And that will, to me, just makes it infinitely harder. So we're thinking about this. We're thinking about, okay, what are we going to do next? Because we're not going to settle down and stay in New Zealand forever. I don't think so, at least. But what do we do next? And it always sounds romantic. Oh, we're going to move to Taiwan. We're going to move to China. We're going to try out this. We're going to try out that. But I think it just, yeah, the older we get, the older our kids get, the harder it just sounds to settle into, especially such a foreign culture, foreign language. Because,
Yeah.
to be honest, I've lived in 6 different countries, but all of them were English speaking. The other, like the 6th one was Germany, which I do speak the language, right? So we've been doing the easy way so far. We've never done it the hard way.
Let me give
And
you a
that's,
life hack. Let me give you a life hack.
please.
Use a Southern Chinese immigrant life hack, okay? The
Mm-hmm.
reason why you see a Chinese diaspora everywhere, and they're mostly from the southern states, provinces of China, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that for whether you go to and find Chinese in the US, Australia, all over Southeast Asia,
Oh, they're all from
wherever,
southern China?
they are usually always from the southern Chinese provinces.
Oh, okay.
And the thing is, they always, because in southern China, most of the agriculture the geography is very hilly. And they've got a lot of
Mm-hmm.
deltas and hills, right? So they're either growing crop like tea, right? Staples like rice. And so then they've got a lot of periodic issues to do with, and it's going back millennia, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've got issues with, let's say, the country's not doing well. So the people in the north don't have enough money to buy tea anymore. So the price of tea, which is not it's a luxury good, it's not a staple, it's a cash crop almost. It goes down in value, right? So if you're a tea farmer, you're dead. So you need to leave your country, leave your hometown to go look for work somewhere else, right? Or because the south they grow so much rice and it's very often flooded, you get a lot of death and destruction, and then famines and whatever. So you also need to leave, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what they always do, or what it's in my bones as well, I think, is that you always think about it through the lens of your children. So you don't think about yourself. So, like, let's say you say now, oh, but we're getting older. But for them, they would say, yeah, but my kids are just 2 years old or 5 years old. For them, life hasn't even started yet. So, what do I need to do so that they've got the best chance? And if
Yeah.
that means me having to like uproot and do whatever I need to do so that they can get a better chance than me, I'll do it, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
the way they'll see it now, let's say in your shoes, they would go, yeah, maybe if I move to Taiwan or China for 10 years, maybe I don't get to enjoy all the culture and all the things that I love to do in my own native language. But in 10 years' time, both my kids will be fluently bilingual. And it's not hard for them. For them, it's easy. So yeah, then let's do it, right? So I think it's the lens with which you see things through. And I think for them, that's what makes it so easy for them to just go up and leave. Right? Like
Mm-hmm.
my great grandma on my mom's side, she was like 17 or something, and she put all her life savings onto this one-way trip with like a low survivability to go from the province near Taiwan on the mainland. Yeah, she just bought like she bought a one-way ticket on a junk, like on a wooden ship,
To go to
sailed
Singapore.
to sailed to somewhere in Southeast Asia. They called it Nanyang, right? It's just somewhere in Southeast Asia, and she knew her husband was somewhere there, and the only thing she had was three Chinese words, right, on a piece of paper, which was her husband's name. And then she just went to Singapore to say, hey, because if I don't find my husband, I can't start a family. He didn't come back. I can't contact him, so I'm going to go there to look for him.
Yeah.
Right. So when you think about that, then you go like, okay, how hard is it really? Like, okay, I need to download the translation layer on my Alipay app.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, for her, I guess it was like you're going from a really shitty situation, and and you have hope that it's going to be improving. My problem is that I'm not in a shitty situation.
Yeah, you're in a very good situation.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
almost,
so
you're just like
there's no
you
push
yeah.
factor, right? And then the
Yeah.
pull factor has to be
It has to be really,
stronger.
really strong. Yeah.
Yeah.
And New Zealand is doing really well. Still, not sure if it will forever, but people here are just living the best lives. I can't believe it, right? It's incredible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. That's what you would think, what you should think about it. But
No, I'm not saying that's how you should, right? I don't know if I always think about it that way either. It's just another way of thinking, it's another philosophy. I don't know if that's good because, you look at it from another lens, the average Chinese immigrant that you see, they're always pretty stressed out, right? They're always pretty much thinking of we need to survive, we need to work hard, we need to come back to Singapore, and I'm reminded of that.
yeah,
Everybody's just pedal to the metal a lot of times, thinking about how to chase a better life. Which, if you do that for 5 generations, when is it time to go like, hey, it's time to take a deep breath and enjoy the sunset, right?
yeah. Well, but maybe then it's something cultural, right?
Yeah, maybe. It has to be. It has to be because statistically, it doesn't make sense that you go to. It doesn't matter, man. You go to Indonesia, you go to the Philippines, you go to Thailand, and all that minority Chinese population is just killing it everywhere, right? They own all the they own all the
Yeah,
like how does that even happen, right? Which to be a minority in like 10 different countries and be the controlling, yeah, be the most influential group of people. It
yeah.
has to be cultural.
It's a cultural thing. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, but I think like the whole thing, I don't think it's something that's only what the Southern Chinese think about the next generation or how your kids are going to survive. And I think about that a lot too. About like where are my kids going to have the best life? Like how am I going to get them into the best position, ideally, right? Or yeah, the best mindset, give them the best values.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I feel the same. Like it's more about values rather than dollars at the end of the day. Because you give somebody with the wrong values millions of dollars versus giving somebody a small start with really really good values. I'd rather put my bet on the second one.
Yeah, yeah. Depends on how you measure it, but definitely, if you're thinking about like, oh, living a good life that you're really content with, then that might be better.
Hey Flo, the passport visa guys are calling me, so I need to go and collect my Chinese visa.
Oh my goodness, what an ending!
Yeah. So wish me luck,
Yeah, good luck.
and maybe we can have the next call when I'm in Shanghai.
Yeah, cool. When's that going to be?
3-4 days.
All right, let's do it. You settle in, get over there, and then we'll chat again.
I'll still be in your time zone, Flo.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm so confident that we're going to be able to do it again. Now we're used to it.
Yeah. And I could walk and talk with you while I'm going through the Chinese cities and looking at all the electrified transportation and the 10 RMB slash $1.50 US bowls of noodles.
That'd be good. Yeah, as long as if everything's electrified, I think I've got good confidence that it's not going to be too noisy.
Yeah, don't worry, super quiet. My wife
Yeah.
is actually worried when we're there because it's so quiet. You don't hear the cars, and it's easy to step on the road because it's just so quiet, and you're so used to hearing motorized transport, right?
Yeah.
And you can blindfold someone and go into the middle of like a 8-lane intersection, and it's full of cars, and you don't hear anything.
We're gonna try it out.
Yeah.
We're gonna try it out. You're gonna walk on it while we're recording, and then we'll see.
All right, cool. I'll take some pictures.
Awesome.
All right.
All right.
Catch you later.
See you later.
See you, Flo.